This is our product on the process of photosynthesis. My name is Zane.
My name is Sid.
My name is Raina.
And my name is Sophia. On our poster, there's a drawing of a flower, which is an autotroph. It represents how autotrophs do photosynthesis.
The equation of photosynthesis consists of reactants and products. The reactants are carbon dioxide and water, which use light energy to produce glucose and oxygen.
On our poster, we also have a diagram of a chloroplast, which has a membrane for thylakoids, which stack up into grana, and there's also a stroma that's inside. The light-dependent reactions happen in the thylakoid membranes, where light is absorbed by chlorophyll, and the Calvin cycle occurs in the stroma.
Next, you'll see our diagram of the chloroplast. In summary, in the light-dependent reactions, sunlight splits H2O into hydrogen ions and electrons, which power ADP and NADP plus into ATP and NADPH. These then go on to power the Calvin cycle, or the light-independent reactions, which splits CO2 to make glucose. The energy keeps cycling through and finally ends up in the product of glucose
This is our
and
poster
byproduct
on
of
cellular
O2.
respiration by Sophia.
Sid.
Raina?
And Zane.
The definitions we will be using are aerobic, which means oxygen is present, and anaerobic, which means oxygen is absent. Cellular respiration has three processes. The first is glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm. During glycolysis, one molecule of glucose is converted to two molecules of pyruvic acid. Also, ATP and NADH are produced, which will later feed into the Krebs cycle.
The Krebs cycle is located in the mitochondrial matrix, and pyruvic acid from glycolysis is used to make NADH, ATP, and FADH2. NADH and FADH2 carry electrons to the ETC. CO2 then leaves the cell, and acetyl-CoA adds a 2-carbon acetyl group to a 4-carbon molecule, making a 6-carbon molecule called citric acid. Citric acid is broken down into a 4-carbon molecule. Electrons are then transferred to energy carriers, NADH and FADH2.
The third step in cellular respiration is called the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. The electron transport chain, also known as the ETC, uses products from glycolysis and the Krebs cycle, as well as having oxygen as the final electron acceptor, combining with H plus ions and electrons to form H2O. It is composed of a series of electron carriers located in the inner membrane of the mitochondrion. NADH/FADH2 drop off their electrons here and become NAD plus as well as FAD. Chemiosmosis, on the other hand, produces ATP. The ETC pumps hydrogen ions into the intermembrane space, creating a high concentration of hydrogen ions in the space, as well as a lower concentration of H plus in the matrix. Hydrogen ions move down their concentration gradient through ATP synthase to create ATP.
The final equation for cellular respiration is C6H12O6, or glucose, plus 6O2 as the main acceptor of electrons is oxygen, then turns into 6CO2 carbon dioxide as a byproduct, 6H2O water as a byproduct, and finally ATP. In total, glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the ETC release 36 molecules of ATP per one glucose molecule. However, in the absence of oxygen, fermentation occurs. Fermentation releases energy from food molecules by producing ATP. The two main types of fermentation are alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. The human body uses lactic acid fermentation in order to create energy with the absence of oxygen. Finally, on the left, you will see a diagram of the mitochondria. First, glucose enters, and then through glycolysis in the cytoplasm, turns into 2-pyruvic acid. Finally, the Krebs cycle, which occurs in the mitochondrial matrix, then makes CO2 as a byproduct. Transferring all the electrons to the ETC, it then finally creates 36 molecules of ATP per one glucose molecule. Thank you for listening.